everyone. Today we're at Silver Falls, Oregon, which is a beautiful place with wonderful waterfalls, which you can see right behind you. This is South Falls. But that's not the main focus of this conversation today. I really just want to go over the major issues in the world at the moment that I think everyone should be aware of. And let's start with the economy. The last few years, we've seen the collapse of the real estate market. We've seen the stock market crash in 2008. And we've seen a lot of talk about unemployment rising, but in a way that isn't rising too fast. The government's telling us that everything's all right now. In the recent 8-9 months, we've seen the stock market rise, almost near to the previous highs. And I just want to, give that message out there that it's not true. If you ask somebody down in the level, down in the pits, the actual workers, they'll tell you that there aren't any more jobs. The numbers for unemployment they're manipulated in a great way. And if you actually look at the right adjustment level for the unemployment, the one we calculated in the Great Depression, unemployment is actually up in 18–17%. So, and I'll place some links to kind of show that down below. Another thing I think is really important to understand is that it's time for us to get our things together and not rely on the government. Sure, you may be on unemployment checks right now. Sure, you may be getting handouts from the government, but it's not going to last. We're trillions of dollars in debt, and it's not going away anytime soon. And the politicians aren't changing policies enough to make that go down. And that history's shown that countries that don't manage their money well will eventually hyperinflate, and all these social programs like Social Security, unemployment will definitely go away. So it's time for us to go back to the roots and take care of ourselves. And what do I mean by that? A lot of people have been going back to nature. A lot of people have left the cities and got a plot of land in the countryside and start growing their own food. Some people, it's for them, to go out in the countryside. But a lot of people, it's not bad to just start a garden in your backyard if you got some plot of land. It's time for us to go back to the basics of life. And I'm not saying we should be like some green hippies and just do it for no reason, just do it because. It's not become a necessity. Inflation in the country and in the world will start taking food prices higher and higher to the point where it's going to be hard to afford good, nutritious food. We may find that the only affordable food in the future will be GMO, genetically modified, or really unhealthy food. So, and things like organic food and other things become more expensive because they just won't be produced in a mass quantity. So this is why I believe everyone should go out there, start their own garden, learn more about organic farming and gardening. And notice how everything connects. I talked about the economy, I talked about maybe sustainability, going out in the nature, getting in touch with it again. So more specifically about sustainability. There's a movement called permaculture that's been rising over the last 5–10 years. Native Americans and many indigenous tribes practice this, and it's basically this. Instead of viewing Earth as a separate force that we can control and manipulate, we basically find a way to work with Mother Nature. So instead of producing plastics and just dumping it in a landfill, we find a way to dispose of it in a way that's ecologically sound. It goes back to nature diligently, that it feeds the other processes of nature. I personally took a permaculture course in Eugene, Oregon about 6 months ago, and it really enlightened me to all the different ideas and a lot of very clever ideas to live more sustainably and also reduce your costs too. This has a very practical bottom line effect on your cost of living. For example, we have very strange thinking in this world that we can just control nature. We have Southern California and Arizona, they just pump gallons and gallons of water from remote places when they really could just be collecting rainwater, for example. And also another thing that people in Oregon are more aware of is composting. Instead of just putting all trash into one big bin, separate the organic matter in another bin and let it compost. And this creates nutrient-rich matter that can put back into the soil, which will help plants, fruits, all sorts of vegetation grow. So I'll get into this more in detail later when I'm going to go out and try to interview the best of the best in the permaculture field and see what they have to say, and try to focus on what are the things that we can do today, anyone can do today, instead of talking about grand ideals and schemes. We may talk a little bit about that, but I also want to make sure that you can get information that you can try right now. And I also want everyone to know that there's a lot of issues in the world right now. 2010 has more than its fair share of earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic explosions, economic collapses, you know, all sorts of things. And despite all this going on, it's very important to remain in the moment. There's something more to it than just, you know, life and death. So I just ask that have a little patience and that we sit still for a second to just be in the moment. So when I talk about being in the moment, there's a lot of confusion on what that really means. Some people think that you just sit still and not think, and it's called meditating. But the problem is, unless you're one of these people who are very, very into these type of things, it's going to seem very difficult and bewildering, and you might quit. So I actually recommend to do what I'm doing right now. Go into nature. Go to the nearest national park, state park, and just go there. Be there by yourself even. And just start looking out to the distance. Start looking look at plants. Think about not thinking, and then don't think at all. Get your car, bus, whatever you can, bicycle, and go to the nearest park. And just sit down. The first time you do it, see if you can just sit there for 5 minutes, just by yourself. Just sit down. Don't think, don't even stare at something interesting. Just stare at the grass. 5 minutes. I bet you anything that you'll find something very, very beautiful in those 5 minutes. And then the next time, maybe 10 minutes. And then 20 minutes. You'll find that all these worries, these fears, these future and the past, they just kind of dissolve. And it gives you a sort of energy, a sort of calmness. Find the calmness first. Find the moment first. Find your peaceful being first. And all of a sudden, all those fears, all those worries, they just go away. It's possible to become enlightened without ever reading a book. Go to where Mother Nature intended it to be. Right here in nature. If you're on a Windows machine, click the start button and shut down. If you're on a Mac, go to the Apple on the top left and then shut down. And if you're on a Linux machine, go to whatever you need to go to shut down. And until next time, farewell, take care, and goodbye.